Well, here I am with Seymour Rifkind, one of my best buddies in pickleball. That's the beauty of pickleball, the friends we make.
Yep.
I have to pinch myself with not only the number of friends, but the quality of friends that I've made through this game. And so Seymour usually is just on the road, doing whatever he can to promote pickleball, trying to get us in the Olympics, all the things that he does, certifying instructors, and doesn't get to play. So I'm making sure this week is a play week for Riff.
Yeah. It's the highlight of my year, to be honest with you, right? The highlight of my year. So before I really started all these organizations, I'd come out and visit Steve strictly to play.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Wes and Enrique and you know, the legends here in Oregon. And so, you know, once I started the organizations, I stopped playing. I didn't have time to play, which meant I wasn't coming out to visit. And my goal last year was make time for yourself, come out and visit Steve if they'll have me, and just forget about everything and just play pickleball and remember the joys of just playing. And,
you caught your first sturgeon.
Sturgeon.
We were catching 2 sturgeon at a time that day.
Yeah. That was a blast. And you know, played pickleball and reignited the friendships, like you said, Steve. You know, so much of it is just, you know, community building. That, you know, every time I've come, we've congratulated a Hall of Famer. It started out with you, then it was Enrique, then it was Wes, and Norm, and now me.
And now,
I'm an adopted Oregon.
I had the privilege of introducing Seymour at the Hall of Fame, and I was really happy that you asked me. I was hoping you would ask me. My dad was inducted in the initial first year with the inventors, which, you know, he was highlight of his life for inventing the first composite paddle, which really revolutionized the sport. The game's more fun to play with a lighter paddle, bigger sweet spot. But now technology has brought us to a really crazy point of our sport. I know I have my views on it. In fact, we both have similar views. That in some ways, you and I could just solve this problem by only measuring. Really, we only need to know 2 things.
Right.
And that is the exit speed off the paddle and the spin rate.
Correct.
We don't care what the paddles are made of.
Right.
We don't have to have a stare-it test where a needle-like object goes across the paddle. All we need to know is if we have machines set up that measures that. And I think you're doing something with this with
WPF is working on doing just that, and you know, the testing is going to be proprietary. People are talking about preserving the sport, but the actions that I see are doing just the opposite, right? The inventors of the game didn't want the serve and the height of a player to be the dominant force like it is in so many other sports. The magic of this sport is the 7 feet on both sides of the net, where the game slows down and you can't just put the ball away. And when you can't reset the ball, because we're getting this trampolining effect, and the speed of the ball keeps increasing faster and faster and faster. When you hear guys like Ben John saying it's getting out of control as the #1 player in the world, hopefully the rest of the governing bodies begin to realize this. So that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it, which is even more important in my view, is the governing body is there not only to maintain the sanctity of the sport, but to make certain that the sport is safe. 95% of all the play is recreational play. When you're allowing paddles that have the capacity to make the difference and be the denominator that is causing someone to win a match rather than their skill, that's an issue. When the speed of the paddle in the hands of somebody that doesn't have the control and it's got, you know, fast hand movement, they're strong, they're quick, and the ball, and they're at a 3-0 level, and they're playing with people that don't have that kind of reactions, you're going to get more injuries. You know, before I came here, Steve, I have a friend that got a detached retina.
Yeah, and I've had friends that have
And
had
there's going to be
detached
more
retinas
of that.
also.
There's going to be more of that. So you know, safety has to be one of the biggest concerns of any governing body.
Right.
And you know, I just don't like what's taking place. And obviously, you know, we've got lawsuits that are coming up with this whole thing with the Gen 3 joola paddle.
Right. The people that would argue with us would say, "Well, just wear eye gear." But you know what? When that ball is going 65 miles an hour and hits you in the head, hits you in the nose, you can break your nose. I don't know if we've had people lose teeth yet, but the way paddles are going, if you can hit a ball 65 miles an hour, actually they've been timed at 75 miles an hour, and people say 14 feet apart, you're really closer than that.
Correct, because if you're in the ready position, you're 3 feet out in front.
Right.
So now, instead of being, you know, 14 feet apart, you're more like 7 or 8 feet apart.
And if a game just becomes dodgeball,
or just, you know, mini tennis, you know, or you know, just all it's turning into is just a power game. I think that's one of the problems that tennis went through. You know, if you look back 30 years ago, I think tennis was a much more exciting sport to watch because rallies went longer. You had different styles of play. You had serve and volleyers against the baseliners. There was a lot more strategy involved. And as soon as you let the manufacturers just dictate, you know, and try to get an edge, and I understand, you know, the motivation of the manufacturer. They're just trying to make the next best widget.
Sure.
But that's where the governing body has to put those controls in.
If
Those
there
goalposts have to be there.
If there is a set regulations on speed and spin,
that's it.
Goalpost set where this is the manufacturers. They're just going to keep coming to make one faster and faster and more powerful.
And that's exactly what we see today.
Right now,
because we don't have those goalposts.
When you talk about the style of this equipment changing the style of tennis, do you think Rod Laver would have ever been, if he had to play today?
Yeah, he would.
What is he? 5'6", 5'7". We have even a player like McEnroe. If today was his era, we wouldn't know who McEnroe was.
Yeah, if you're not 6'5" with a 140-mile-an-hour serve and a huge forehand, you have no chance. I mean, go back even Michael Chang. He was up to number 2 in the world.
He wouldn't play this.
No chance.
And if that happens in pickleball, we'll be having the same thing.
Pickleball won't be pickleball.
I'm also worried about. Okay, our court is 44 by 20. We used to say 30 by 60 was enough space.
Yeah, that's not enough space.
That's not
anymore.
enough space now, even for our Gen 2 paddles.
No. Nope.
We can't just change every facility in the world and make them bigger and bigger and.
But we can make recommendations where they have the room. You've got to go to a deeper, you know, distance.
But one of the
beauties
of our sport, though, was that you could put one in your backyard.
Of course.
If you had, you know, I had one in my backyard.
You've
for
had
years,
one in every house.
Every house, and it wasn't even quite 30 by 60.
Right.
But people wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
A lot of these clubs that we have, our club Rex is a soccer building. It was a soccer building.
Yeah.
And we fit 9 courts in there that would not be able to fit 9 courts with the technology changing the way it is.
Right.
So there's so many reasons that you and I agree on this, what's happened. There are paddles out there right now that that
are still approved, that are even, you know, more powerful than the Gen 3s.
Right. If we went totally to an exit speed and then they set the goal and they go, okay, this is and now tested all the paddles, there would probably be about 10 different models or maybe more. That wouldn't meet
pass.
Those. Right. Yeah. And the other thing, I'm coaching these kids. Lots of kids. They're not loaded. They don't have lots of money.
Right.
They might get a sponsorship and get, you know, a few paddles. But the spin disappears in a very short period.
Some of those paddles the pros are playing with, they're changing paddles after every match.
And it doesn't bother them
because
they get
they're getting everything for free.
paddles.
Right.
But the ordinary person out
ordinary
there
rec player, or
can't-
even a tournament player
can't afford to do that. Now, I know we have some products coming down the line, pickle skins, where you can replace. But again, if it didn't matter on material,
Right.
and we didn't have to have this carbon fiber, and you had maybe pips out table tennis paddle, who cares if you have pips out and you have rubber on your paddle, if the speed...
If they were within the goalpost.
Right.
For safety and to keep the integrity of the game. Yeah.
And cut.